Over at the UAAP Crucial Games in men's basketball on tap this weekend. And joining us now for a preview of this weekend's games is Sports Desk basketball analyst Mikee Reyes. Hi, Mikee. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Mikee. So, crucial games in this weekend's UAAP. Let's talk about that first game. We have Ateneo versus NU, and we do know the Blue Eagles, tinambakan na nila yung NU nung first round. So how do you think the Blue Eagles should approach this match on Saturday?
Well, the way they did the first 12 games that they played this season, I mean, I feel like they're peaking even. We thought the first round was the peak of the Blue Eagles, but you know, in the first round, they were struggling with their offense. They were actually, there was a point they were dead last in producing points in a game. But their defense has been on point since the first game that they played here in season 82. And now they find themselves at number 2 in terms of scoring the basketball. So if you can have the #1 defensive team in the league and then the #2 offensive team in the league in the Ateneo Blue Eagles, then you know everything is just looking good for Coach Tab Baldwin. And of course, that complacency that Coach Tab Baldwin was talking about earlier, you can't treat the NU Bulldogs as if wala na sila, because that nothing to lose mentality that Coach Mikee Reyes will bring along with the rest of the Bulldogs. That's scary. That's a scary mentality to go up against, especially if you're 12-0 and you're going up against a team na eliminated na.
Well, you know, Mikee, if Coach Mike, that's what he's thinking, nothing to lose, what are actually their chances? I mean, realistically, what are their chances of pulling an upset against Ateneo?
Well, it'll be very tough. The rest of the UAAP, the other 6 teams would agree with me. It'll be tough to get a win against Ateneo, especially with NU, because they're really struggling with their points right now. Even though they have so much talent, they have so much firepower, they're just struggling with in terms of shooting the basketball and putting that ball in the hoop. And right now they're number 8th in the league points per game. They only average 65 points a game, 64, 67 points a game. And that's a big problem, especially going up against the wall that Ateneo has built between themselves, the rim and their opponents. And Ange Kwame right now underneath the basket, Terdi Ravena, the length of the Ateneo Blue Eagles will be tough, but you know, you never know. Maybe NU can pull a bit, some surprises against Ateneo. Maybe they can bring something that we haven't seen from them this season. So it'll be an exciting game for sure.
All right, so for NU, Mikee, we're talking about, a game that has no bearing for them anymore. They're already out of contention here in the UAAP. They finished, they're now at last place with 2 wins and 10 losses. But all things considered, what do you think, can they take from this season that they can bring to the next one?
That you can't start the way you did a season, especially when you're trying to compete for a Final Four spot. But the development of these guys, especially Coach Mikee Reyes right here, and the development of these players, the Aldefonso brothers, Sean, Dave, JV Gallego is there, JLC is there, Minerva is there. So still a lot of names and a lot of potential in that NU roster for years to come. But that's a big lesson for them. You can't, even though medyo heartbreaking losses yung nakuha nila in the first round, and those small details can really win or lose you ball games. And this at this point of the season, mararamdaman mo yung mga losses na yun in the first round. So I think that's the one thing that they learned this season, and hopefully they can start better in season 83.
Yung mga 1-point games na yun,
masakit.
Masakit. But I'm sure next season, they're gonna do all the things they need to address those. Okay, so Mikee, let's talk about the next crucial game. We're talking about the FEU versus the UE Red Warriors. Crucial game for FEU because they still have a chance to enter the Final Four, at least for a playoff spot. They're trying to assure themselves that. But let's talk about the keys to winning for FEU against a team like UE, who's also out of contention already.
Well, coming off a big win against Adamson, you talk about the FEU Tamaraws, and like the Ateneo Blue Eagles, the FEU Tamaraws right now are just really one of the hottest teams in the league. And the way they're peaking, again, number 2 defensive team in the league, only second to Ateneo. And the way they shoot the basketball in these past few games, especially from the outside, they're number 2 right now in terms of a 3-point field goal percentage. They're number 2 also in 3-point field goals made, only second to UST. And, just that backcourt of LJ Gonzalez, Royce Alforque, Wendell Comboy, creating opportunities, especially for their teammates. They may not score the basketball as much as they can, but the way they break down the defense and, attract defenders, help defenders, and be able to kick out to the shooters and tough in, Cyrus Torres, and these guys just really have been on a tear in terms of shooting the basketball. And the big guy right in the middle, Pat Chuente, also anchoring the paint in terms of their defense. So they're peaking at the right time. I talked to Coach Olsen Rosella, and he feels also that they've finally found, or starting to find, that niche and that identity that they were longing for in the first round. So it'll be a scary game for UE, but, baka nga may magic pa si Coach Lawrence Chongson.
All right, talking about UE, they've had a, interesting season also, of course, with Ray Suerte and their new coaches. But, Mikee, what do you think they can take from this season as they prepare for the next one? Sabi nga ni Coach Lawrence Chongson, if there's anything, they want to change their management style. So, Is that what you think they should do also?
Well, they've been struggling the past decade. I think it's been 10 years or so that UE hasn't really gotten a winning season in the UAAP. And it starts at the top. We don't really know what Coach Lawrence Chongson met. We don't really know what's happening in the UE camp. But it starts at the top. If they can fix whatever they're trying to fix, if they can figure out whatever is causing them problems on top, and then it'll go down to the bottom. But Reyes Suerte, one and done. Individually, a great season for him. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to see him anymore in the UAAP after this weekend or even the next game. But it'll be an exciting off-season for UE. Maybe player changes, management changes. We don't really know, but hopefully we can expect a more competitive UE squad next year.
Mikey, let's talk about the games. This Sunday naman, UST will face Adamson on Sunday at 2 p.m. And biglang naging fight for survival na para sa UST, diba? They lost last Sunday to LaSalle, heartbreaking loss after, Renz Abando stepped on that three-point line, could have sent it to overtime. But what happened to UST in that game, Mikey?
Well, they were down big midway through that game, and they made that big run almost in the end. But ultimately, Renz Abando wears a 13 rather than a 12, so dun sila natalo dun. But it was a big shot by Renz. I'm sure even with the loss, that momentum that they had, especially during the latter portion of that game and making a game out of it, they can carry that over in their game this weekend. It'll be a big game for them because they're trying to fight for survival, like what you said. But I'm sure the troops of Coach Aldinay are ready for Saturday.
Okay, so UST will go up against Adamson, a team they lost to in the first round, right? So how can they avenge that loss here in round 2?
We'll play 40 minutes of basketball. They played 37 good minutes against Adamson in that first round matchup, but Adamson finished on a 16-0 run to steal that game away from UST. And again, those games right there you can feel those games, those breakdowns during the latter portion of the season. They feel that right now. They hopefully they can't take that back. It is what it is. But right now they have to focus on Adamson. Adamson has been struggling so far here in the second round, and UST will have to pounce on those struggles of Adamson. And they will rely again on their three-point shooting. They're going to rely on their offense, and hopefully if they can stop Valchauca the way FU stopped Valchauca only had a single point after 19 points against UP. So UST will have to play defense against these guys, but I think they have a good chance of getting this win.
Okay, Mikey, Adamson, they're already out of contention in the UAP Final Four race, but what can the Adamson Falcons and, of course, Coach Franz Pumaran and his players take from this season?
Well, they're going to lose Valchauca, their Spitfire guard, the one-and-done player, but I think Jerica Hanmis already committed to playing one more year with Adamson. They have a bright future. Lenda Duanga, AP Manlapas showed us what he can do as a rookie, so nowhere to go but up for AP Manlapas right there. Jerome Lastimosa also. Last season he emerged as one of the great point guards of the UAAP, especially after that Final Four season, Final Four finish for Adamson. But I think medyo na-derail yung growth niya and maturity niya as a player because of the entry of Valchauca. So next year, I believe Jerome Lastimosa will have that big year that he was supposedly going to have this year. So, nowhere to go but up also for Adamson. Coach Franz Pumaran hopefully will stay at the helm. And Coach Franz Pumaran during the offseason will prepare the Adamson Soaring Falcons for a better finish in the UAP.
Okay, Mikey, so after that UST-Adamson game on Sunday, 2 p.m., 4 o'clock, we have probably the biggest game, this weekend, UP versus LaSalle. What do you personally expect from this match?
It's going to be a dogfight, especially both teams coming off wins, both teams coming off wins that weren't as convincing as they were supposed to be because they were leading big already, and then humabol pa yung NU and also yung UST against these teams. So I feel like they have the sense of urgency, especially for UP, because they can secure the second spot with this win. And for LaSalle, by this time, by 4 p.m. on Sunday, they're going to know if UST and FEU get those wins. They're going to have to get that win, because if they lose that game after a UST and FEU win, then we're going to have a Final Four already. We have the Final Four teams that are going to advance to either a step ladder or a Final Four. So it's going to be a big game. It's going to be a dogfight, especially with LaSalle. I hope they bring that LaSalle team that we've seen the past few games, because you don't know which LaSalle team is going to show up, as well as UP. It's going to be a talent-laden game again with Aljon Melesio, Baltazar, and the rest of the UP fighting. So it's going to be exciting.
Okay, Mikey, quickly, in the first round, LaSalle collapsed in the end game against UP. So what can they do to avoid this, and who can they lean on in the clutch?
Well, like LaSalle, we talked about it earlier, that they have to be consistent. They have to play 40 minutes of good basketball against UP. Again, those were lapses that you're going to feel. They're feeling that right now. They're supposed to get that win. But that turnover and then that three-pointer by Juan Gomez Diliano decided that ball game for them. Instead of a 1-0 game, it was a 0-1 game. So for LaSalle, it's just really be consistent with their offense and especially their defense. And they have to let, Baltazar not guard Bright Aqueti in the paint. So it's going to be a big task that will be handed to James Laput and Brandon Bates to be able to give Baltazar enough rest on the defensive end, or at least hindi niya masyadong magamit yung energy niya because he will have to play offense. And of course, Aljon Melesio and the rest of the backcourt, Jordan Bartlett, those guys will have to play well against June Manzo, Juan Gomez Diliano, and Richie Rivero.
Okay, Mikey, let's talk about UP naman. Yung problema nila lagi silang naghahabol. They're far from pulling it off, and Coach Bo Parasol said this is a cause for concern. So what do you think they have to do in order to dominate from start to finish?
I believe all UP fans will agree with me because when I say that UP hasn't had a convincing win yet this season, all of them were talent wins, all of them were, we've seen the capabilities of UP, the way that they can play. But the question is, can they play that way for 40 straight minutes? And that's a tough thing to do. That's a tough task. But if they can reach that goal that they have, which is of course to win the championship and dethrone Ateneo, then they will have to, get used to playing that kind of basketball for 40 straight minutes. And the chemistry is still still a process. And we'll see if they can get this win, and then they can enter Wednesday's matchup against Ateneo with all the confidence in the world, and you never know what can happen.
Well, Mikey, thank you so much for joining us. Exciting games this weekend in UAAP. Again, we just had Sports Desk basketball analyst Mikee Reyes.